seconds.
See here.
Gerald, can you see us now?
I think I may get ready because it said that I was waiting,
We can
but
hear
I can hear you.
the phone, okay?
Well, don't hang it up yet because it's not come up.
Hang on a sec. Hang on a sec. Cheryl, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wait a
Just come.
minute.
I did that. I had my phone muted, so you're able to hear me through the computer.
Yeah, I'm able to hear you on the computer now.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up the phone. Oh,
Okay.
All right.
You need a PhD to do this.
You're good, Cheryl. We got you now. If you want to turn on your camera, we we'll be able to see you, but we can
I
hear
don't
you.
know how to turn the camera on.
That's
Oh,
all right.
okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, so
We're at approval of minutes, Cheryl.
Uh-huh.
all right, all in favor of approving the minutes, Ryan, aye.
Muhammad, I.
Cheryl?
Cheryl, I.
Great.
Cheryl, I.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Okay, and now we will open the floor for public comment.
I think you're all doing real great.
Excellent.
Connor.
All right, no public comments, so we'll go ahead and close it and start with new business.
So I'm going to introduce the team from Marsh, who is here today to do a quick presentation to the board. And I'm going to try to share on my screen here so that Cheryl can see. What we've asked them to do is, if you recall, we're opening up a senior center in the William Street building. And the idea is proof of concept, see how it goes. This could last for a while, but at the same time, in parallel, the idea is to start the process of considering what it would be like to build a separate senior center adjacent to Real Services in partnership with Real Services and hopefully many others. So before we have appraisals on the property already, the 3 pieces of property over there, the Real Services board has not discussed it officially. So the idea was to ask Marsh to come in and start talking about doing a needs assessment. So what would the justification of that be? What are the needs? What would it look like? What other kind of community partners would be interested in joining? That's all work that they would do. So that's what they are here to talk about here today. So I'm happy to turn it over to you guys.
Should we, Jason, just take a seat here?
Yeah, whatever you want to do, whatever you're comfortable with. We keep it informal around.
All right, perfect. So Podge Patel, 315 West Jefferson Boulevard in South Bend with Marsh. I'm their Business and Government Strategy Director. And then I have my 2 colleagues here. Crystal, do you want to introduce yourself?
Crystal Welsh. I am the Director of the Planning Division for Marsh.
And Arvin Dela Cruz, I'm Director of Architecture, based here in South Bend.
So some of you may be familiar with Marsh. Let me just give you some high-level information about our firm, just so you have a little flavor for it. So we've been in business for about 45 years. We have 250 employees. The majority of our employees are based out of the South Bend office, and we're right half a block from the county city building, just to give you a geographical idea. Marsh, an interesting name. It's a French name. Stands for, a fair deal, is the translation there. And so we do work on engineering side, architecture, surveying, landscape architecture, coastal waterfront, including, stuff along the St. Joe River as an example where Howard Park is. We have a digital solutions component to our firm, GIS and asset management. We also help with project financing. And then what we're here to discuss with you today is the planning and development services piece of this particular project. And before I hand it over to Crystal and Arvin, let me just give you a flavor of a handful of projects that Marsh has been involved in. You've either walked in these areas, you've driven by, you've enjoyed amenities with the family, whatever the case may be. So Western and Olive, that streetscape there, our firm did that on Olive and Lincoln Way, where the trail is and the intersection and all that sort of stuff with the pavers and the sidewalks and all that stuff. Marsh is involved in that. More recently, the Notre Dame trail that they have between Notre Dame Avenue that connects into downtown. That was an interesting project. It's supposed to be a 2-year project, and that was condensed into 1 year to get that done. And so our firm was involved in that. And then, you're obviously a social service entity, right? As a township trustee, Youth Service Bureau. So that project, our firm worked on that as well as the part that has Sutton Heritage Foundation. So just a little bit of a flavor of what our firm does. And so probably Crystal, do you want to start it off and however you want to?
Sure. We'll try
chime in
it.
on it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you more paper. So I am, as I mentioned, in charge of the planning division, and what that means, I want for you,
Thank you.
is that we do quite a bit of planning. What does that mean? That means anything from assisting someone in getting a variance or a rezoning, all the way to master plans, community plans, countywide comprehensive plans, and then facility planning. Whether it's a park or a community center, the planning division really brings to the table the community outreach. We have 4 planners on staff. All 3 of the 4 have worked in public government in the past. The other had her own private firm. So we understand public engagement and the need to involve the public in decision making. And when you use tax dollars, you have to make sure that you are functioning and doing the things that the community wants. So we just listed some relevant planning experiences, community master plans. We do industrial park feasibility analysis, and then Arvin and his team do a whole bunch of whether it's new or renovation of existing and new public, institutional, and private sector buildings. And so one thing I will add, just to kind of reiterate the connection with social services, is for 19 years, I worked for the city of Elkhart and I managed the CDBG program. And so as part of a government entity, public engagement is really important in the CDBG. And not only dealing with the agencies we may have provided funding for, but also during every 5 years, you have to do what's called a consolidated plan, which involves looking at all the needs of the community. Whether you're going to fund it with CDBG or not, you're supposed to go out with a special emphasis on seniors and senior services. So that was always involved in there. Sometimes Real Services received funds through the CDBG program for the city of Elkhart. Sometimes they didn't, but they were always at the table and part of that. And so needs assessment is something that I'm particularly very familiar with as well. Arvin, did you have anything on the buildings?
Well, sure. Then taking on to what Crystal was saying on adaptive reuse, for instance, whether it's new construction or renovation, passing the baton of that information of the needs and creating, even if it's a concept plan, concept drawings and renderings, to then articulate in a graphic form all that wonderful data that Crystal and the planning team have done, right? So that's kind of a nice segue to say, what are our needs and how does that manifest into a size of a building or a structure fitting within the real estate that's available.
And what I provided you was an example of a facilities and services needs assessment we did for a community center in Southwest Michigan. And the intent there is not to say we're going to duplicate this for you necessarily, but to kind of show you what the process looks like. And it goes along with the PowerPoint presentation. So the one is the final report. So we did 3 different surveys. We did focus groups. We had a steering committee. Again, it was a much larger area, but we were really looking to say, okay, if we're going to get together with the social service providers in the area and the recreational needs of the community, what is it that the people want? And so we asked the general public, let's say. And then we found out that when we did the initial survey, we didn't get as many students as we wanted. And so we created a second survey specifically designed for students. And during that process as well, we thought, well, it's really important for us as the steering committee to understand the needs of the local service providers. So the copy of the survey I provided you is that survey that we then shipped out to the local service providers to say, what kind of things do you offer? What kind of things do you think are missing from the community? Where do we have duplications of services? And what in a perfect world would you like to be able to provide, but you can't right now? And so it was really a 2-part survey asking not only about the services, but also what facilities would you need to provide those services in an effective way. And so it's a nice way to talk not only about programming, but the space that program needs to go on in. And so that's kind of what this first section talks about, that process that we would work through. We work with the trustee's office to find a user group that could help us answer some of those questions. But then we're going to go out and hopefully collaborate with some of the social service providers who are already providing services to the seniors in the community, and get an idea of really what's out there, what's needed, and where the gap is. Additional public engagement if you would like that. And then what we do is we take population demographics. The report shows you, one of the pieces, this report was a little bit larger than the current scope right now, which was we were trying to help them identify a location. So we got what people wanted, and then we said, okay, what are the physical things? And one important part that came out through this was the need to be adjacent to trails, because there was a strong youth component, and the youth weren't going to be able to drive. So how did we facilitate them getting there via trails? And so looking not only at what you needed to do in the building, what you needed in the building, and how would you get to the building. And those kind of things are really important when we're looking at what makes sense for location. If in this case we have a location identified, looking at making those connections, because you still may want to be sure you're on a bus line. So if the bus line doesn't go to the spot that you're suggesting, where's the closest bus stop? Can we work with Transpo to make sure the bus does serve there? Can we make sure that the bus is serving the same time that you have hours of operation? So those communications are really important, not only to say, hey, what do we want to do, but how are we going to function and how are we going to do it well?
Marvin, we're gonna.
Yeah, I was gonna say another compelling thing that the two examples that Crystal pointed out, that the senior services portion and kind of the youth, where we know what we found out in our practice is the opportunities for engagement with a variety of age groups. So whether it's a senior services center, the component of the youth to do volunteer work or to engage with a variety of age groups, and the idea of how you enlift the quality of life for everybody, right? That it's not just a one-trick pony, one demographic, but how do they begin to feed into each other and enhance each other's lives? So volunteerism with the youth, engaging with kind of mentorship with seniors, I think is a wonderful bond. So that's looking at the architectural space. How do you create environments that takes the needs assessment and really amp it up for everybody?
And so again, we will work at your direction of how much public engagement we need to do. This is a specific action or activity. So again, looking at the direct stakeholders, who do we need to get involved? What kind of documents do we need to produce to facilitate public buy-in, whether you need to do fundraising, any type of those documents that we can produce during this process will be helpful. And again, we usually will work with a steering committee. That could be the trustee. It doesn't have to be an outside group, that's fine. And again, if there's no reason that you can't hold these meetings publicly. One reason that sometimes we have to worry about open door laws. So making sure that a steering committee is made up of either people you want to have an open meeting or you don't, you have to be mindful of that. Small group meetings. Sometimes there are sectors of the senior population you want to talk to. Interviews with senior advocates and seniors and service providers, interactive work session. If you want to hold a work session with seniors, currently that's one of these pictures is actually showing a work session in which we took, oh yeah, the one on the bottom. So you can see those graphics. So we actually took examples of what might be in the facility. This is a parks facility, but what might be in that facility. And we got people to vote on which ones they liked. So that's a kind of a fun way to get people thinking. And sometimes it's easier than writing down things. It's like, I like that, I don't like that, I like that. So coming up with ways to get that input. Surveys, as I provided, are always a good idea. Obviously, we can do that web-based, that's the easiest way, but we have lots of experience doing paper-based. We just completed a project in Elkhart County in which 50% of our service group was Amish. And so we knew they weren't going to be taking a survey online. And so we have lots of experience. We do know some seniors are very computer capable, some are not. So understanding that building in a paper option is important for a survey. And then as we did with our social service providers, if there's any specific survey or questions we want to ask of specific potential user groups, we can provide those services in both English and Spanish as well, if that's something that you're interested in doing. I speak Spanish, and we use in translating service, and then have somebody who's a native speaker read them to make sure they make sense.
That's great. Hey, I got to ask Crystal, you know, that top picture it looks exactly like the Real Services boardroom. That blew my mind. Like, it's set up, like, I'm on the board. I was like,
That's
I was like, how'd you
Goshen.
guys get that picture?
That's Goshen, but
Even the
that's
setup of the little table. I was like, that's a
Photoshop.
trip.
yeah.
I was like, that's why I zoomed in.
It really is.
I usually sit on the right here. I was like, I don't see me sitting there.
Great.
And then again, just to kind of show you some of the examples, I'm on the sample programming survey results. These are just an example. They are all in that document I provided you, but these are some of the things. And interesting, when we sorted the priorities based on who took the survey, some of the things were the same, but you had a little at the top and a little at the bottom that were slightly different based on who it was that was taking the survey. So that's always interesting too. If you can get multiple groups, and we can do, they're called collectors. We can ask the same questions of different people and collect the information and sort it differently. By asking questions like, you know, what's your age group, what's your race or ethnicity, what's your income level. So we can add those little criteria in, because then you can sort. The other nice thing about that is if you have going in, if you know or have an idea that you may get underrepresentation of a certain population, we can make sure that we're trying to address that and gathering the information. Because the nice thing about the web-based, and generally what we do with the paper survey is we just have somebody in our office put them in the web-based anyways, because it's easier to track and manage the data. But we can do an interim report and say, okay, we had an idea youth were going to be underrepresented. And so we do the report and we check the age group. And we can say, oh yeah, we definitely missed it, or no, we didn't have that concern. We did a good job getting that information out to the right people. So we have lots of tools and ways to try to make sure that we're reaching the right people. Other things to know is that if you have existing activities in which seniors are going to, we can always pop in and do a presentation with them, or a little mini work session, 1 or 2 question surveys. We have lots of ways to just kind of try to pull out as much information as you want to get.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. When you mentioned you have experience in doing the surveying of the Hispanic community, have you thought how you're going to survey the Hispanic community? Now there's this immigration fear within the Hispanic community. You know, a year or 2 ago, it would have been easier. Now, you know, the Hispanic community, many of them are very afraid, even though they may be here documented.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, and it's a prime example of our work when we deal with the Amish community. I'm not going to meet with the Amish folks. They're having an internal, we provide them information, and they have a conversation and get the information back to me. So finding those trusted local advisors and groups are really important. And I think you're completely right that, you know, it would be interesting to see if there has been a fall off of Hispanic participation in some of the groups that are going on because of this. But again, we can do our best.
I think what we would do also is engage La Casa de Amistad, right? They are very well entrenched in this community, very well respected. They're already working with the community and the fears that they currently have.
Mhm.
And so it would just make natural sense for us to work with La Casa de Amistad here.
And actually, one of the first projects I did was the streetscape for Olive, and we held the
Okay.
meeting at La Casa de
There you
Amistad.
go.
The old
Yeah, oh,
building,
yeah,
not the new fancy.
Sounds
one.
like a house.
The OG.
I just wanted to make sure that we're all cognitive of the fact that, you know, a year ago it was easier to get input from Hispanics, and now it's a lot harder because of some of the fears they're having. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Ready for questions?
Yeah.
Any other?
Cheryl, any other questions? I don't have any questions for these guys. I
don't.
appreciate the presentation.
I always just wanted to know what they did in that building. Like,
There you go.
seriously,
You see the name?
Why do we have them speak?
cause you know, I used to park at Democratic headquarters all the time. I'm like, man, I wonder what they doing in there, you know?
Designing your
Come in
city.
sometime and we'll give you a tour. Arvin.
Actually, it is great.
It's, yeah.
It's a really nice building.
Please do. You're welcome
Yeah.
anytime. We'd love to give
We
you.
can buy you lunch.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. that-
Oh, I'll be there.
What a time.
Cheryl said she's in.
Yeah, I mean, just reach out and
Sure.
happy to host you.
Sure.
Well, I think one thing, if we can just, before we close on this, is talk about the timing, and it really depends on how much engagement.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna get scheduled.
Yeah, so, our back end work will take us about a month, you know, to get all the information, put it in the right format and give you a report. What really takes the time is the public engagement.
Right.
Mhm.
How much time do we spend reaching out, trying to get to those people? You know, again, even the social service providers, they all have busy calendars, trying to get a meeting scheduled, trying to get a group meeting to schedule, or even interviews with individuals, just trying to get on people's calendars can be difficult. So from our perspective, this is a potentially 2 to 3 month process, just so that we can kind of make sure that we put the effort and time in to getting the collection. We often try to piggyback on other things. So if there's a large senior event or something that people would be gathering already, it may make sense for us to delay and make sure we can go to that to get more surveys. So again, we're flexible on the timeline. I think it's the real key is trying to make sure we get the public engagement in a meaningful way and not just say, well, we're gonna do it for 30 days and then after that, we're just done.
From the township's perspective, at least from my office, we'd be fine to move forward. I want, you know, unless the board disagrees. However, I want to give Real Services the opportunity to engage as well and at least inform them. We have a meeting tomorrow. And I haven't really broached this with them. Is it an appropriate moment? I mean, this is technically the township taking this on, but so I'd be fine with us moving forward. And then, you know, over the course of the few weeks, I would want to leave it to their CEO on how she wants to handle her board and kind of looping them in that we're even talking about this. It's like this awkward moment where not everybody knows what's going on because not everybody really needs to know what's going on. And because we don't even know what we're doing yet. And that's this first step here is like, does this make sense? And how does it make sense to move forward?
So you mentioned the parcels of land over there by where they are now. Is this what this is for? Is it this for?
That's what this is for. This is for the new, no, that's why I was saying, this is for the idea of building a brand new building. Yeah. It shouldn't be just the township and Real Services. At some point, the city, the county, these other partners would want to be in that. And so what these guys will do is they will find that justification if it exists out there to build this. What does the community want to see in it? And then next steps moving forward, we could ask them to start engaging with these other stakeholders and lead that effort for us.
Yeah. There's one group of people that I'd really like to see included, and you may not actually include the people, you may include the people who work with them, but I would like to see developmentally disabled senior citizens, you talking with them, or perhaps the people who work with them, to see, are there any special issues with developmentally disabled seniors?
That's a great idea.
Also might be worth considering though, with everything going on, like I wonder how Real Services is doing with their funding right now. Like if there might be a need to delay things because of that.
It's possible, certainly possible. Real Services is undergoing they're triaging right now on what the world will look like if various things get cut, who gets food and who doesn't. They don't know what it looks like, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But that's the same true for us, isn't it, Jason? Until we know what happens with Senate Bill 1.
It is. The only difference for us is this is capital. This is all capital for us, not operating. So
Okay.
our bonds are less affected. This would be built with bond money, so it's less affected by that rate. What is affected is our assistance.
Okay. Thanks.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
That's the shit of it, to be honest with you, Cheryl.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Good seeing you all.
Remember the invitation.
I have not forgot. It's lunch involved, man.
And you know, he teaches over in Elko.
The tour is great though, too.
We
Yeah.
love
The tour is
thanks.
great, yeah.
That's why I'm waiting until summertime.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you, Cheryl. By the way, Cheryl, Carla wants to know when you're coming to the ambassadors meetings.
Tell her I'm not getting any of the, I'll email her and tell her I'm not getting any of the invites.
Okay, I'll let her know.
And I'll also email her.
Okay, yeah, please do. She specifically asked.
Have a good night.
All right, if you don't mind, Mr. Hill, I can move forward here in the next items, if you're ready.
Go right ahead.
Or unless you want to discuss anything else there. Actually, we are requesting the 2024 annual report be tabled. And unfortunately, we would like to ask if the board is available to schedule at a meeting next week. This has to be approved and submitted to the DLGF by the end of February, but as a consequence of our board meeting schedule, it's not ready for you to review and sign off today. So I'd like to ask A, that it be tabled, and B, that we call a meeting just for this topic next week.
What do y'all have? I know that Ryan is out on Monday and Wednesdays. But my Tuesdays are pretty much open.
So we're looking at the 25th.
I don't have anything on the 25th.
Hold on, let me look. I just started using my
25th Tuesday.
calendar.
Ryan can't do Wednesdays, Lana.
Sure.
That or Thursday.
Okay, hold on.
Tuesday or Thursday? Are you talking about 5 o'clock or can you come earlier, Mohammed?
I can come right off work. I mean, I drive right past here,
What
Tuesday.
time?
right around
Can we do-
4:05.
Can you do
Right,
that? Cause that's all we have to have. them
This would not be
review.
a long meeting.
It would not be a long meeting. It'd be the only thing on the agenda.
so
Yeah,
25th.
Thursday is the housing as a human right meeting.
I can't do 4 o'clock.
That's okay. Can you do Tuesday at 5?
Yeah,
Ryan, you good?
Yeah. I think so.
I'm doing it. I mean, do you want to do it earlier? Cause we
Well,
can't.
she said she can't do it.
Okay, so Tuesday at 5, I'm down.
I'm gonna call it a special board meeting. I'm gonna send you the invites right now.
okay.
Thank you.
A very special board meeting.
Yeah. I would still need a vote on a motion, a second and a vote. Yeah.
All right. I
I'm
will
making,
second
where we at?
motion.
Second.
All right. Motion to table it. Cheryl.
I,
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. And invite them. Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Mm,
Come on. Okay. Next item is a resolution 2-2025, which would be, if you recall, let me see here, the same process as before. So this is the reimbursement resolution. So passing this, when we do move forward, I also included in the email to you guys, the timeline put together by Ice Miller. Sarah is on here and I see she's coming on camera here and unmuting herself if the board has any questions. Sarah is with Ice Miller. They are the municipal bond council that will be handling this bond for the township. So, and she can fill in any blanks that I might miss, but this resolution is, that it's a not to exceed. We're not expecting to get a $4 million bond. We're expecting it to be closer to 3, but this is that thing where you can't go get one bigger than what you initially advertised for. So you advertise slightly higher.
I don't want to sign that. I want a $10 million bond, man.
Oh! But I do want to say, so this is what will allow us to, Avon Marsh, anything that we do that's bond related, we can reimburse the township funds back, going back 60 days from now. I think it's 60 days, Sarah, maybe it's 90. Included in this would be the possible acquisition of parcels, engineering and planning for this building or any other building, repairs to William Street that have been made and could be made, possible fire apparatus, that might be purchased, for the fire territory owned by the township. Facilities manager vehicle, well, we need a truck for this facilities manager that's gonna be traveling from, 5, different locations here. A trailer, the Nourish program, which, getting ahead of the meeting here, Connor is gonna talk about, but the next phase of the Nourish program would fall under that. So this, the possible parks projects that we've discussed, that would allow the board to fund those type of things should they decide to move forward with it. But
And that,
it wouldn't be for the renovations necessarily and construction of a building. That would probably be an additional bond in the future after the last one falls off. So as you recall, this is sort of what you see the schools doing now to fund their capital projects. They go and they pass a bond, they fund their capital projects, and then when that bond falls off, they go re-up that bond. And so that's sort of how the state has created the environment that we're in when it comes to funding this type of.
so this includes the cemeteries, right?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Cemetery renovations and fence and all that, which, yep, that would all be reimbursed in here. Before you ask any questions, Ryan, Sarah, is there anything you want to fill in the blanks there on?
No, I think you gave a really good overview. So the IRS requires us to have an official intent to reimburse. So that's all that this is the document that allows that reimbursement. So we'll come back with a little bit more detailed bond resolution later on, but this is just that first document. And you're right, it lets you go back 60 days to reimburse yourself for any expenses related to what you're going to do with the bond funds. We've also drafted the project description really, really broadly. So it includes all those things that you listed and could even include other things so long as they fit within that broad description.
For these bonds, what would the term be? Is that
Yet to be determined.
Okay.
I would advocate for a short term. The only question there is there an effect on the taxpayer? Typically, because of the property tax caps within the city of South Bend, we don't have that issue because they're already at their cap. So we could do a short-term bond and the taxpayers wouldn't have to pay. In some areas of the county, if you do a short-term bond, that would increase somebody's property taxes by a lot. And if you spread it out over 10 years, it only increases them by much smaller. We don't necessarily have that concern because most of our taxpayers, if not all of them, are already at the tax cap. So it would allow maximum flexibility on the term. The first bond we did was a 3-year. So that's considered short.
Very short.
I like short myself, but.
And from my understanding though, is that it's actually the people outside the city that likely would be affected. Because the city has rates are at the max, but I thought the county area, that was less the case.
They would run those numbers so that you would see them when the moment comes, but for this initial resolution, there's several steps the board has to take. This is just that initial, what you fall back on to start reimbursing yourself if you were to move forward with the bond.
Okay.
So the municipal advisor or finance advisor is Steve Dalton again. He would be the one that provides you that report.
I'm cool.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
I'm for it.
Do I have a motion?
Make the motion that we pass resolution 02/2025. That's our
I
resolution.
second. Cheryl.
All right. All in favor? Ryan, aye.
Muhammad, aye.
Cheryl, I.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And we'll be back with the bond resolution next month or whenever you want us back. So we'll see you with more details soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. What was next?
Oh, our Nourish Grant Coordinator Agreement. This is a re-up of the previous, basically with the Nourish program, working with Connor, we brought in sort of a subject matter expert that helped provide a lot of that, the expertise when it comes to the actual details of programming, and worked closely with Connor. Robin Vita, and this is a request to re-up that contract for this grant year.
Uh-huh.
So was
I-
Robin the one that wrote the grant for Nourish initially?
No, actually, good question. She did this time. Well, I should qualify for that. And Connor, if you want to answer those questions, she actually did assist with the writing of this grant this time. She didn't the first time because we didn't have it the first time. She helped with the KPI reporting along with kind of making the connections in the community. And I mean, Connor, what other things that she sort of did for us?
I mean.
And it's an
she
hourly
opened up-
rate. It's
she
not
opened up a
a,
lot of doors.
Yeah.
I would say that first and foremost, from getting a meeting with Amy Hill from Transpo to talk about the efficacy of doing a mobile market to, just her years of working as a county health officer and knowing what is successful for, a cooking class, because she's done a couple of them and what sort of the cultural barriers were at the time. So she's been a wealth of resources for us, honestly.
Okay. Cheryl, did you have a
So
question?
Robin is the contractor?
Yeah.
Is that?
Okay, go ahead.
I understand it.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a question.
Yeah, I do have a question to Connor, but it's not on this topic.
Oh, okay.
he's gonna present later, Cheryl, if you want to talk to him.
Yeah, that's what I know.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't see any issue with that.
Shit.
Make a motion. We got to make a motion for this, right?
All right, I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Brian
Aye.
Hill.
Oh, you know what, Lana?
No, aye.
Come on back.
Want to table it?
I'll get to it.
I don't think we should
Cheryl's-
actually have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Cheryl
what I mean.
signed it.
Exactly.
What do you think we don't have?
What's up?
Who signs this?
Jason.
I do. I just like bringing it to the board.
Yeah, I was like- I was like, no. I
It
didn't
probably
bring
doesn't
yeah.
require board approval, but I just think it's nice.
So you can kind of review it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, that's-
I don't know. It probably could. So, we're good to move on, Olden?
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I don't have an update on the voucher due date policy. Cheryl, we just didn't get to it yet, so I'm keeping it on the agenda
That's
as old
fine.
business. 2025 township guidelines were passed last month. I forgot to have you sign it. And with Cheryl, with you being out, I think it'd be nice if all three board members signed it. So we'll go ahead and table that to the next meeting as well, if that's okay.
Well,
that's
if you
fine with
want
me.
to do it, and then I hope to be among the living by Friday, I can come in.
Well, you know what? You're coming next week for that meeting we just scheduled.
Okay, I'll do it then.
That's totally fine. Great. So, both tabled, just keeping it as old business so that it doesn't fall off the radar.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, trustees report.
You've got our budget, you've got our assistance numbers. Happy to start with, the budget. A few notes about this. Ryan, you got the speech from me that this month, the ADP system did not connect with Lao yet. So you do not see, expenditures for payroll, but I assure you they did occur in January.
See them next-
You would have heard about that. And then also Sammy, printed this off as, being super helpful, but we went back in here, we added some additional appropriations that the board passed. So the admin budget and the, township assistance budget is missing a few line items, but, your actual budget.
Okay,
So this is the same budget from last year but you added a few, the cemetery is not on here, disaster relief is not on here. But that'll all be on there for next year, so. But the budget
Next
total
month.
expenditures at the bottom are correct. So nothing terribly notable here, a lot of upfront costs, a lot of fire territory costs. Came this right in January. That's the most notable thing. We changed the way, Cheryl called with a good question, and I'll get to it here in a minute. If you look at our assistance numbers, she just noted that we're slightly down from January of 2024, but we're actually up from 2023 in January. January and February are expected to be slow months for the township. So that 27,000 is actually even high, but the difference is, if you recall, the CASA contract, we paid that all up front last year. And this year we're doing quarterly payments. So that's why there's a slight difference there. And also, because Cheryl called me earlier and asked the question, we also In December of 2023, we held on, we were out of budget money. So we held on to some of the checks and we paid them in January of 2024, which also sort of bumped up the budget number in 2024. So generally speaking, I would say we're actually still up from a typical January and, expecting for that to continue. So as you can see, 110 people, 2024 this time, we had 96 this time. So 86 before that. So, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions there, but I don't have anything terribly notable on the budget side or the assistant side.
Yeah, I don't see anything particular there.
All right. Facilities updates. The only update that I have for you is that William Street, they're now targeting like a St. Patrick's Day opening for the senior center. The renovations in there were mainly completed. We did add a couple slight things, and we are excited for the board to. I'll make sure you're there for whatever kind of kickoff and opening that we might do. Putting in some new flooring. And there's some areas in the back that we had to rip out some stuff, and it made a huge mess. So that's having to be cleaned up. But it's coming along real nicely. And now Real Services is targeting. They're kind of driving the bus when it comes to the rollout of all that kind of stuff. But we'll make sure that the board is invited when that moment comes. This building, I don't have an update. Our hearing is finally tomorrow. That is just a motion to intervene. Because as you recall, the eminent domain is filed against the previous owners of the building. Our attorney, Jim Masters, has filed a motion for Portage to basically say, hey, Portage Township is the one who should be. It's not expected that will be rejected. So I will do an email update though whenever I find out information about that. But the clerk's office dropped the ball, never scheduled the hearing. Jim Masters had to call down there. That's why it's so delayed. It should not have been so delayed. And then St. Joe County Fire Territory, I don't have a ton of updates. The chief is here. If anybody has questions for him, rollout from the township's perspective, chief, how we looking? People pretty happy?
Yeah, I think most of the feedback, I make it a point to get around to visit all of our stations every week. And most of the feedback I've got from everybody is they're pretty excited about switching and how they're being treated and taken care of and everything like that. So I think as a whole, it's pretty good. They've been busy. I know some people look and say no, but actually the busier we are, it's probably the better. Less time to sit around the kitchen table and think of problems. So actually, the bypass certainly keeps us busy, and but that's a good thing.
So actually something for you, Chief and Sam, we had a little bit of a meeting today, just talking through some kind of fun community stuff we'd like to do along with the same next topic here is we'd be interested, and I kind of sent you a text message, we'd be interested in doing some sort of Easter, some sort of Easter activity with a Rosie Place. I don't know if you're familiar with the Rosie Place. It's right down the street from one of the Warren fire stations, and they're for medically fragile children. It's a place where parents can kind of go get a break. They can drop their kids off. Yep, that's right. And the fire station responds there, fairly frequently when they have things come up. We thought that's probably a population of kids that doesn't get to do fun like Easter egg hunts and that kind of stuff. So we thought, what if we put
Easter eggs might be out of budget this year.
Yeah, man.
Good point. Well, we were going to stay away from the eggs. Well, we were going to get with Sam and the chief, and we were going to suggest we were going to call them and let them tell us what they think they need. But what if we just brought some Easter baskets? We had the fire guys show up with the truck, so maybe the kids won't be so scared when they have to show up. Who doesn't love a fire truck? And we've got a volunteer to dress up as the Easter Bunny already.
Oh, yeah.
So we thought that'd be a real nice
I think
thing.
it's great. And something else to throw on that same line. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Camp Raybird at all. But Camp Raybird's right down from our fire station as well. And a big portion of that population is from your Portage Township area that comes out there to visit it. And that'd be another thing that when you're looking to do things that impact your community, being engaged with them, I think would be a great thing to do. We've done a lot of spray and plays with them in the past, and I think trying to do some things down the road there would be.
If you could share that contact there, I don't see why we couldn't do the same thing on the same day.
Yeah.
They're
a summer camp.
Oh, okay, okay.
Great.
But pick a summer thing like 4th of July maybe or
4th
something.
of July, or even just being involved in
Just because.
The spray and plays we do when it's really hot, we go over and they love to do the fire truck.
Oh yeah, we would love that. Yeah.
So it's everyone we try to engage with.
And we can bring pizzas and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we would love to do that kind of stuff. So heads up, Jamie's probably going to be getting a hold of you guys to coordinate what that would look like, but we just thought that'd be really fun.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Then for February, kind of March, that's really all that we had on tap as far as community events go.
Yeah.
Coming up.
St.
Yeah.
Patrick's Day Parade, we're gonna make a big deal out of that one. If you guys,
Be
obviously
ready.
would love to have you out. We're gonna have one of the SUVs with our magnets on it, in it, giving out beads, beads.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be there. I
I
have
don't
to.
remember
I have to
where
be there.
being
Yeah, I
I'll do it
know.
for anybody. I'm just-
So now, wait a minute. I want to make sure I understand. There's going to be a vehicle, so I don't have to walk.
Yeah,
that
Cheryl, you can ride
Yes.
you can ride in the car
distance.
or up
Okay.
on the fire truck.
You gotta do your princess wave though.
Yeah.
Yep, there will be a
I'll take the
vehicle
fire
and I'll
truck.
coordinate with you, Cheryl. I could probably just go pick you up.
You know why I do not like St. Patrick's Day parades?
Cause it's always cold
It
and
is
rainy.
always cold.
Yeah.
I mean, it is
Rainy.
cold.
Yes.
I'll be
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
yeah.
Freezing, yeah.
Yes.
It was rough last year.
Well, we'll keep an eye on the weather, but we're gonna be in it.
Last year was
Territory's
better
gonna
than
be
the
in
year
it.
before.
So we're signed up for that,
22 was rough.
the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. So keep your eye out for that
Are we
invite.
doing Portage Township,
Both.
walking in the parade?
And the fi-
So the
both.
fire,
And
Together.
okay.
Yep. So yep, that's all that I have for that stuff. Connor, I'm happy to turn it over to you if you wanted to start. Are you doing our assistance review first?
Yeah, we can do the assistant.
Can you,
Yeah, I-
present so that Cheryl can see? Please do, join us.
So Jason asked me to compile our info from our caseworkers this year. I'm glad I put it together because it's fortunate that it's digitized because of Cheryl's absence right now, so it's easy for her to see. Why don't we just get into it here? So total aid distributed. Last year, our office was responsible for $439,963.66 in financial relief. As you can see, it kind of really picks up in the summertime. I feel like that's pretty standard for this office. As utilities in the summer gets to be a bit more of a strain. Total number of individuals assisted, we helped over 2,042 households. It's important to remember that we just started tracking on how many people actually come through our doors. So while these are people we financially assisted, we still help people on a number of things on whether or not we can help them, right? So like if they need to go to real services, places like that.
Next year, we'll have more robust numbers there from the swipe down system.
Yep. Zip codes. So 46628 is still our primary one that we service in greater capacity comparatively to the other zip codes. I believe that's South Bend's west side.
Mm-hmm.
That's in line with 2023 data. Applicant gender, primarily female identifying residents come to us. There's nothing, I mean, some of it's pretty straightforward. There's not really any kind of pontificating that I feel like I can do. Applicant race, Black residents remain the most likely to seek assistance through our office. Same with 2023 data. Last 30-day income, so 35%, $0 to $1,000 in the last 30 days, 26%, $0. And obviously it kind of goes down from there as it gets higher. So referral source. So word of mouth seems to still be where people are finding out about what we offer. 40% friends, family found out that we can help. 211 remains a second primary source of referral for our services, and then other area agencies. I specifically singled out 211 just because our caseworkers were specific with it when they were documenting it. I just felt the need to take that at face value instead of compiling it with all the other area agencies.
That landlord seems to be a drop. I don't know what would drive that, or at least it's a lesser portion than it used to be. It's interesting.
You mean landlord referral, like the.
Yeah, landlord referral, I mean, it's fairly common. And also,
Before it was the COVID funds and that housing stuff. So I think though they were well
Okay.
educated that was available.
fair enough.
So that might actually be a thing that they don't know that we still do this now that.
Because of like IHCD
No,
or
right,
something like that.
COVID,
Well,
yeah.
whatever it
Well,
was,
that's what I meant,
the
IHCD.
program that was running during COVID.
IHCD.
Yeah, so that might be something to look into, make sure they know that, assuming the housing is decent.
Yeah. Well, we'll find that out.
That program ended in December, so it may totally pick back up, so.
So out of all of our applications, 42% were new, people that had never been here before. 30% were reapplications, so after a lengthy time away, they have to go through the application process again. And then 28% were continually returning applicants, people whose paperwork we already had in our system that we could reference easily.
They do a short form application.
So application results, 42% denials, 58% approvals. So the implementation of application time limit, of an application time limit resulted in an overall denial increase from just over 20% in 2023 to 42% in 2024. So more on the denial reasons in the next slide here. So failure to complete app. I know it's a little small there. Sorry, guys. It's also on the packet, just a little bit bigger too. But non-completes are a big chunk of why they got denied. They either just didn't come back with their paperwork or they didn't fill out any of the necessary information required to continue the process. Over income, where they were outside of our assistance guidelines and what we could offer, was another big reason why we denied. And then caseworker verification. Our caseworkers finding discrepancies within an applicant's banking information was the third primary source of denial. Like say they reported, well, I had this much money, but they spent a bunch of it on DoorDash, things like that. It starts to become, you know.
Yeah, just a couple notes here. So the failure to complete app, as Connor mentioned, that's because of our the new policy this year that people can't let the application sit here for a month. So they have to return within a reasonable amount of time. We knew that was going to happen because it was when we were visiting the other townships and they said they had a 50% denial rate. We were like, oh my God, you guys must be like really strict. And they were like, no, most of them are people who don't return, after filling out the app. And I was like, oh, okay. So same thing that we're kind of seeing here.
I think it's important on that one for us to try to track what it is that's the issue for people. I know a lot of them are going to go off for their income statements, but I don't think that's always going to be it, right? Like, so looking for things that might have discouraged them from applying or coming back. I don't know.
I don't think it's from applying.
Well, they start the application, they sign it.
Yeah.
It's just part of it, I think, is that they see how much is required in terms of like what documents they need, where it becomes almost overwhelming, I would think. But
Well,
Or
it
the
might be
time
an
they
issue
find
they
it.
don't have some of them, right? And that would be something worth knowing.
Mhm.
I'm not talking just income statements. I mean, sometimes proof of identity or other things.
Well, what I
Just
think
thinking
we should do,
poverty issues.
what I think we need to do is at some point, every year, go through and pull so many who didn't come back. And I don't know, it may be a case that the staff doesn't have enough time to do that. Then we need to sit down and figure out how we're going to get it done. To physically
I think
call
that's better for
people.
board members to do, Cheryl. Like, I don't think we
Right, no,
should
I'm-
ask. to do
No,
that.
I'm just simply saying, okay, that we need to figure out how it's going to be done on a regular basis.
So she wants to audit.
Not necessarily audit, but
Basically, what we used to do with voting machines, right? We would
Pull a certain number.
pull certain of them out, and then we would run those voting machines just to make sure that so we want to pull certain applications, random selection, and see what's the issue, why these people are coming back, instead of trying to do all of them.
Right.
I think it's better for board members to do it because I feel like there's a higher chance of staff being yelled at. Like,
I mean, I don't, just
You might
figure
yell
out how
that.
it's
You
gonna
might
be
get
done.
yelled at.
I can handle it. That's fine,
Yeah.
but you guys are busy with other things.
They get yelled at anyway.
I mean, we can figure out how it's going to be done, but I think it's something that needs to be done every year. That's all I'm
Well, you
saying.
and Cheryl are gonna handle there.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point, Cheryl. And that's kind of what we've talked about before, is just how to figure out how to do that. Now that things are being tracked better, that might be something we can look at. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year, the three of us try to call a few people and figure out if we can get any more info on that.
Why they're not coming back.
Right.
Or why they don't fill it out. Yeah. Finish it.
How long do you keep those, do you keep them for?
Applications?
Yeah,
An unfinished, if it's signed, we keep it.
Because they end up doing a denial
It's a denial, so
for
that's going, it
incomplete,
goes into the
so there's a,
system. That's
they
why
have a
we have
file,
this.
and then
So now
until we're
before they weren't recording them.
audited by State Board of
So someone would
Accounts.
come in, start their application, it
Yeah.
would sit there. And then if they didn't come back after a month or two, they would just kind of clean the table off. And now
Yeah.
we're actually putting them in,
Documenting
like, everything goes in the system now.
Yeah.
Is there a way to audit those to see what was missing, right? Like what they were.
Well, you open the file and you'll see it,
You would
yeah.
have to do it, yeah, by hand.
Well, I mean, collecting it and being able to see like these people, this.
No,
percentage
the
weren't
system
income
doesn't let you put
statements or
in
this-
what was missing. Yeah.
Right, right.
sucks.
You would have to pull them, yeah. If I had to guess, people don't want to provide what they're being asked to provide.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But that's, if I had to guess.
Sometimes their landlords don't complete, paperwork you're supposed to do.
If the landlord refuses to take our voucher, that doesn't happen. It does happen.
This will take some money.
Most will
But
take
no,
money.
I mean, yeah, I imagine a lot of them can't do the income statement, which we can't do anything about, but.
That, or they don't want to file for child support and they've been told to. Because again, we usually help people the first time, we often help them the second time, but if they're here like a third time and they've been told, we're not supposed to help them the first time when it comes to the child support. Have to go file for child support.
Mhm.
And I find that to be a very common theme when I'm out in the community.
Oh, yeah.
People complaining that we wanted them to file for child support.
I would also close that loop with
People will complain to me.
utilities. A lot of times they have just literally gotten shut off or they're getting shut off today. And so they have to gather all this information together and they wait till the last minute when their electric's about literally to be shut off in 2 hours. So I'm assuming, I shouldn't assume that they're going out and finding other sources to help
Yeah.
pay with their bill because they haven't been able to collect all that data, I'm assuming.
And the child support thing, that doesn't apply if it's a PV situation, right?
Oh, no, we don't do that.
Well, I mean,
there
I
always
don't-
be special circumstances.
I'm always wary of the law
Oh, no,
being
it's a great point.
unreasonable, but.
No, in fact, we had that recently where this person said she left because it was an abusive situation and
Oh,
we were
yeah.
like, just note it in the file
Yeah.
and just forget
Yeah.
that.
I
But
think
that's the
part of the
exception.
problem, is that some people in domestic violence situations, it may have been 6 months ago or a year ago, and they're still not with the person, but they don't think to tell you. That's why they're not applying for child support. And I also know that people are like, I'm not filing for child support because he's in prison.
Now that one, yeah, there's nothing they can do. We've gotten that
We've
before.
had that statement.
Yeah. That's fine. That's a different circumstance. I guess
Right.
the most common story I would say that I've heard is they just don't want to. He helps when he can, or,
Right.
and I think I'll be honest, I mean, like, I'm not more strict on it than I should be, but I'd like to be because I think there's a lack of accountability for some of these men. I think they're
Right.
big talkers. Tax time is coming up. I will tell you what we will start hearing is, well, I'm not going to file for child support because he said I can keep his half of the tax check. So inevitably we'll say, are the kids living with you or him? And she'll say, well, with me. I say, he's not paying child support. She says, no. And I said, then it's your tax check. Just because he created these children does not mean he gets to come and take. And a lot of them think that these men, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but these men will convince these women that because they're their kids, half the tax check goes to them.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're doing a service by saying, you
Yes.
can keep my part of the tax check. And that's ridiculous.
Or they want their part of the tax.
They're not his
It depends-
dependents, they're
It depends
hers.
on how far you down in your child support, right? The judge be like, if you are so far down.
Well, they don't have
you
to pay the
can't-
child support
you can't
meeting.
claim
It has
you
nothing to do with paying it. They just need to go on record that they have filed for it.
Yeah.
They don't have to be collecting it. If they haven't got a dime, they haven't gotten a dime. And I think that's probably why that was introduced into the law, was to introduce a measure of accountability for men.
No,
But we are
I
lax.
agree. I've worked with people and they're like, well, he pays when he can.
Yes, they say it all the time. He pays when he
And,
can. My response to that, Cheryl, is that's fine, but I want a judge to say that.
right.
Yeah, but they eat them every day, so.
But Cheryl, I mean, I will say, when I'm out in the community, if people complain about our office, that is probably the number one thing I have heard women say. Well, they keep wanting me to file for child support.
And I tell people it's the law. When people say that to
It is
me,
law.
I say we have certain legal things that we have to abide by, because I've gotten that too. And one of them is you have to file for child support. Now, if you
It's
don't get it,
100% law.
we don't penalize you for not getting it, but you've got to apply for it.
That's right.
And I
And again,
also tell,
Go ahead.
I also tell them that, the court will help them apply for it. Because
Oh,
I
sure.
had gotten, well, it's complicated. And I said, well, the court will help you apply for it. But no, I've gotten that.
I will also, and then again, going back to, we almost never deny for that the first time in,
Right.
Right,
sometimes not even the second time in.
right. So I don't
It's
have any
after they're
problem
being told.
of saying that you got to file for child support. And I think people have to be forthcoming and say, well, you see, a year ago, there was a domestic violence thing against him. And that's why I'm reluctant to do it. People have to come up and say that kind of thing.
Well, here's the thing though, like having again, trackable information, like lets you address the problem, right? Trying to, if we say like this, people make that complaint, like, well, yeah, this percentage of denials are, they're not doing that part of it even after we've helped a few times. So that's just my interest is always like trying to break that down and see if there's a way we can get past some of that and make sure people get help. So, but I don't know if that's possible yet, so.
Well, we really went on a tangent there, Connor. Show us some pretty
Moving on,
pictures.
right.
Show us some pretty pictures.
I was just going with the thank you. I wanted to put a bunch of fun photos together just from our year there.
Parade.
So, a lot of them are from our
Well, it
Nourish
couldn't have
class,
been that
which
cold. I'm wearing
you'll
shorts.
see in the next presentation. But
Memorial Day.
Oh, is it Memorial Day?
yeah,
Okay.
I put Memorial Day and then the coat drive in there with y'all. We had our clothing drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is our office administrator's daughter. She was in a Nourish apron, but that got cut off, but still. This is Kasada Yobi and her son. She was one of our regulars for our Nourish program as well. She was an interesting one, but it was, we had so many different people there, so many different viewpoints. I really enjoyed that part of it. But yeah, why don't I think it's a good time to go into my segue for the Nourish presentation here. I'll try to make this as short as possible.
Okay. Connor,
Yes.
one of the things I wanted you all to think about for the coming year,
Yes.
I'd like to see you do one of your programs on healthy Hispanic cooking
Mhm.
and another one on healthy soul food cooking. Both of those groups have high diabetes and heart and all those kind of things. And a lot of it is related to the traditional cooking.
Absolutely.
So I'd like
Great
to
idea.
see one program that would be on healthy, as I said, Hispanic cooking and healthy soul food cooking. And I'd like us to put some kind of booklet together that would have those traditional recipes.
Gotcha. So like a printed booklet of recipes we've kind of sourced together that are on the healthier side. Well, I'll say
Right.
balanced. I don't really necessarily like healthy too much. Balanced is the better
Right.
word.
So for instance, when it comes to greens, instead of the fat back, it's the smoked turkey or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. No, absolutely. We kind of did something similar with Chef Pastor Ward. We did a like a turkey chili, like a really healthy chili take on it. It was nice, but I think that a more soul food oriented one would be really cool.
And then Hispanic too.
Absolutely. All right, so I'll just kind of get into it here. Obviously, we started after we received Health First Indiana funding in 2023. Specifically, it was to combat chronic illnesses that arise from obesity in our county. And, we really wanted to create something that was accessible to the people the trustee office already services, where we could focus on providing a third space where culture and community intersect, where people, regardless of their income level, can make a meal with a cost-effective lens. So a little bit about the philosophy, and I wanted to just get this all down so we were all on the same page when talking about the program. I would love to have you guys out of the class eventually. I think that would be really cool. But a little bit about the philosophy, right? There's so many obstacles in today's world. Cooking doesn't have to be another one, but it can be a path through those obstacles. So it's trying to connect with people and get them to realize that, the DoorDash that you're buying is probably more expensive than the groceries you can get. Though who knows that where the way that's going now with the given government state of everything. And that, sorry, give me 1 second to find my place here. I like to also say that there are 3 prongs to the fork, right? Education, community, and dignity, helping residents understand the way their diets impact their overall health, creating a long-lasting relationship between all these participants to bolster civic health, and then dignity, providing empowerment to all these people that come by giving them the tools necessary to go on and make it. So this kind of broke down
Did you
what
pay
we
your
did
dollar? Did you pay your
class-wise.
dollar for that?
Paid like $30 because I bought all of my kid had
Um,
right on the table. Keep going, Con.
So with our engagement through our marketing, email updates, our website, social media, our printed promotional materials, I can keep going. We are trying to keep our audience's attention as much as possible. And that's really just anyone that wants to cook in our community. I'll break down the metrics later, but there really is just such a wide variety of people that come, age range especially. Interactivity. There's a really good book called Homo Ludens that talks about man's state of play and like how we internalize information through it, through play specifically. So through trivia, games, other interactive means, we want to break that traditional classroom environment. And then incentivization, which is the 3rd biggest driver for our program, our door knocker prizes, utensil giveaways, our food that we offer. Those are the other really big things of why people were coming back. So our class structure. We do it every Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. So you got to think of a recipe that can get done probably in about 30 minutes because you're also including in cleanup time, time for guests to eat the food and connect with each other. We also do a feedback form at the end of every class where we ask people what they thought of the demo, things we could do to improve the demo, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So class size, we started at 15, but very quickly it grew to 30. Lana and Jason were at that first one, and it was a literal standing room only at one point, which is really stressful, but that's a good kind of stress to have. It's the stress you want. So our class location, last year we did it at the United Way of St. Joseph County, their One Roof Center, Unity Gardens, the Charles Black Community Center, and the Kroc Center. This year, I also want to branch out to the Excel Center. I think that would be a really good area to kind of get in at. And I'm also open to other ones as well. I know that there was, Jason, you had me reach out to, what was that place originally? It was like an old skating rink that they've now repurposed essentially.
Which one?
They now do different, like.
Beacon?
No,
Oh, it
the
was,
Beacon, right?
it was a bowling alley.
Bowling alley, yeah.
I'm like,
Sorry.
where's this skating rink?
I can
Sorry,
see why
sorry.
he'd see that. It was a skating rink, yeah.
Now that it's all been torn out, it has this
I
big
can see
open
that.
wooden
Yeah,
floor
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So-
I could see that. Go up in there.
Sorry, I'm
The-
showing
the
my
rainbow.
age
Jeff
here.
Walker.
Yeah, I was like, I
Jeff
had to think,
Walker,
I
you
was
know
like,
him?
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
No, but I can't skate anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Because
All
the
right.
skate rink was in Mishawaka.
For the curriculum, nutritional value, cost, labor, and time, and taste. So Cheryl, this is something you touched on earlier. There are a lot of cultural barriers when it comes to the taste of the food. And keep in mind, healthy cooking classes already exist. There's a fine line between something that tastes good and that's also good for you too. So it's just something you kind of have to consider when you're teaching multiple backgrounds. Just those are like the 3 criteria that we stick to. Our educators, I can't stress enough how awesome our educators were this year. We started out with Pastor John Ward. He was of Heaven Sent Catering and Barbecue. He's around at a lot of different events. He was really nice. And then we switched over to Gwen Model towards the end of the year. And she is the culinary manager over at the University of Notre Dame. She is a rock star. I love her. I think that she is just such an interesting person to talk to. There's not a single part of her life that doesn't exude cooking to some degree. Like that is just her. She prepares the meal kind of the night before, and then she'll prepare it again in class, and we'll compile it all together and feed everybody. Kind of like a community dinner. Our registration process for our attendees, they applied online. They got regular updates via email, and then it was class day. So it's we wanted to make it as streamlined as possible, just because there are all these different ages. we wanted to make sure that people who are older had easier access to doing that. We also allowed people to sign up at class. Like if people wanted to come up to me with their friends they bought, we would do it right then and there. So this is kind of what it all looked like together here. I'll just play this video.
Oh,
You just
Maybe.
turn the sound on.
Yeah, maybe I'll just try to mute it somehow. I don't know.
So what's he cooking right here?
So this is a chili. This is a vegan chili that he was doing. He did two of them. He did a turkey chili and a vegan chili. Oh, this might be the turkey chili. Actually, no.
Where was this located?
This is at Unity Gardens. Sorry for the static. I can't really mute the video at all without it.
I see a lot of people I personally know.
Sorry about the volume, guys. Again, I did not know it was going to do this to this.
It's all right, don't worry about it.
So now when you guys go out there, see Jenny up there, does she go with you all the time?
No, she was coming as often as she could, but that's one of the challenges that we met this year was people. We need people involved, and we did get a couple people who want to volunteer. We have one volunteer starting out this year, but we need volunteers.
Are you still gonna do Thursday?
Thursdays? Yep, Thursday from 6 to 7.
I'm off in the summer, so
If you ever want to come out, you please. We would. I
to
mean,
be there.
we have someone
What's
who's
your work?
we have someone who's doing packaging.
6 to 7, bro.
Yeah, and you get fed at the end of it. So
Hours of prep.
well,
Well,
fortunately, we are. Fortunately, we are going to have a volunteer who's going to do a lot of the prep work. She's going to be sitting here in the next couple of weeks.
You can have the heavy lifting and getting everything in the car and over there. How about that?
You're going to be our muscles, yeah. If you come and
How do you do that?
I'm down.
Yeah, just let me, my problem is I have so much on my schedule. Like I need a reminder.
Yeah.
And if I get that, I would probably come out and help.
Right on. So a little bit into the metrics here. Where do people hear about us? Friends and family, word of mouth is again one of our strongest ones. Social media, 22%, TV marketing, 13%, email marketing, 13%, and then area partners, 14%. So there's a good mix there, but it's mainly word of mouth again. And I feel like people, especially in this community, when they know someone needs help, especially other families, they're like, hey, come to this thing. It's every Thursday, you get a free bag of stuff to take home. And I think that was a big driving force. We had one family that came out, and the Townsell family, they knew so many people that came to our program. And I'm fortunate for them too, because it was just, multi-generational, everyone was learning. It was just such a cool experience to see that, right?
Looking at the age right there, it's crazy because it's not like these are all 60 to 69-year-old people.
We do have a good chunk of younger people that come out to it, 20 to 29. We had a lot of kids from college. I know that the Black Student Union leader from Ivy Tech was one of the people that came through our program.
People wanting to be chefs or maybe open their own restaurant.
Yeah.
Didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
That would be of interest.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had a couple of Notre Dame students who were also interested in doing something similar. So,
We've also now had other townships from around the state call and ask us to describe this program to them because they've been hearing about it
I just sat down with Center Township.
in Porter County.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Not Center Township in St. Joe County.
Porter County.
Okay.
Every time he says that, I always tell him Porter County. You gotta say Porter County.
Okay.
So our zip codes in terms of people we've provided assistance to through this program, 46628 remains our top one again, followed by 46619 and then 46613.
I
They're
have
kind of like in top 3 for assistance too, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. They're on that list.
Mhm.
Is there someone we could kind of jump, like you said, some people are even interested in opening their own restaurants or whatever. Like, is there a way we could put together a list of like places that are good places to work that are hiring for some groups like that and have that available? Like if you're interested in like becoming a professional chef
Navarre
or getting
Hospitality.
the training. Huh?
That'd be really cool.
Navarre Hospitality.
We could take it even a step further and do a professional development
Yeah.
fair where we have people that work with perfecting resumes, things like that to get people.
Nah, that's a good idea too, yeah.
Quick
Um,
question.
Yes.
What do you have to have at the facility in order to go to that place? Do they have to have a kitchen or what?
Good question, Cheryl. No, the chefs bring everything that they need with them, generally speaking. I mean,
Yeah.
running water.
Yeah, running water is probably a good one. A table and at least 30 chairs is what I always tell
Okay.
people.
They bring the butane and the
Oh, okay.
cooking stuff with them.
One of
But
the
we do
places,
now have our own cooking set that we can use should someone not have access to that wants to teach.
okay. One place I'd like you to think about is LaSalle Branch Library. They are
Okay.
right across the street from wherever the name of the low income housing place is.
Beacon Heights, but they down there right there at
By
Unity
Unity
Gardens.
Gardens, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's on the
And,
same side of the street. It's right there.
And
I was also thinking
they-
about reaching out to Hope Ministries too and having a class there potentially.
Which is very
because
relevant.
you're going to get a lot of younger people coming out of whatever the name of the low income housing place is.
Well, they have to sign up ahead of time.
Right. But I think what we could do is, I would willing to, and then the library could have flyers there for people to sign up. Because a lot of people, I used to run that housing. I used to be the supervisor of that library, and you get tons of people coming in for videos or DVDs. And there's a real young population.
Please be part of that
And
property.
Beacon Heights, that's what it's called. And that would help increase some of your younger age group. So it would just be a matter of having a flyer and then laying the flyer one thing in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Because we could put the flyers in the office and we could put the flyers in the laundry room.
Mhm.
But
I was even thinking of doing something similar at my apartment complex too, over at Central High. So I am in full agreement. Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. A few more metrics here. So this was on the feedback forms. I know I'm trying to go as fast as possible. So we didn't receive anything less than a 3 out of all of our feedback forms all year, which I think is pretty remarkable. Granted, we were asking this at a time when someone was getting a free item, so that might have also influenced it, right?
Yeah, but whatever.
That's how you do metrics.
So yeah, met expectations. 93% gave it a full 5 out of 5. Likelihood of repeat attendance, 97% said 5 out of 5. And then bring or tell a friend. I know they were serious about this because it's how most people came to the class. It was 93%.
So you had the classes were full, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any idea of getting but the city or someone else to partner to add in more classes,
Potentially, yeah. that would also, we would bring in another educator too, because Gwen's kind of our primary one this year, but we're always open to bringing in as many people as possible.
Were people being turned away, basically? There were more reservations?
So we never turned anyone away. We always said, you're always welcome to come out. There was always food, in terms of having a dinner at the end, everyone got to eat something. It was just that being able to supply people with the ingredients, we had to cap at 30.
And then the goal is to have people watch.
Yeah.
So you don't want a place with a kitchen in the back.
Yes, that's true. And then I found that at 30 is pretty much like the ratio where it starts to get a little unruly, but you can still reel it back in, right? Some of these women, they will talk and they will. There were some alliances that got formed, some frenemies that happened. It's just how it goes when you have all these personalities in one room, right? So returning metrics. Why did you return? 51% said to learn a new recipe. They liked the recipes we were doing over the 18 weeks of our program. Class environment, they liked the engaging staff, chef, the activities we were doing during the class. And then community programming, 17%. People just wanted to come to something that was happening in their area.
Mm-hmm.
We found a lot of that. People were like, this is something to do on a Thursday night. I don't have anything else. or my wife is sick and this is my chance to go out. 78% made at least one dish, so that's a pretty awesome retention stat. 10% made every dish, 6% said none, and there's another 6% here that said, no, but I plan on it. So that one was a little bit more hopeful.
A quick question.
So, absolutely.
I
Before
saw
I get into
somebody
our
with
interview.
I saw somebody with a crock pot. Now, how did they get that?
They won it.
They won it. We did a raffle. So every
Okay.
week we do a fun raffle. Everyone who has registered online for the class is eligible for our door knocker prize. We
Okay.
take all the names, we print them out, cut them up, put them in a fun bowl, and then everyone kind of waits to see if they are the one that gets it.
Okay.
And we made the crock pot the first one, Cheryl, because we thought of you. By the way, the
We
first
gave it a
class.
couple of crock pots.
We gave a couple away, but yeah, we thought of you
Yes.
because we had talked about that, yes.
Yes.
This is sound. I'm so sorry. I just don't know how I can not play it right now.
Now, where is this?
So this is at
What's that?
One Roof. This was
Okay.
our end of the year party, in December 5th. Let me,
So you did an end of the year party where people brought things to their class?
so we initially thought of that, and then we were like, we don't know the kitchen status of most of these dishes being made, so for the
Mhm.
sake of, sanitation and health, we had Gwen come in and she made pretty much all the popular dishes from the year, and so
Oh,
we
wow.
had a big,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, about 50 people from the class program came out. It was such a snowy night too. You'll
But they
have to
showed
bear
up.
with the static just a little bit here. I'm so sorry. You know, it's not even
Why
worth.
not turn down the volume on the computer overall?
I'm sure
Well-
I have it muted on my end.
So it's coming.
Maybe just turn down the TV real quick. We don't need it.
Computer, it mutes, Cheryl.
Well,
Yeah.
Connor,
Yeah.
the library pays people to do programming. So
Mhm.
if you were, say, at LaSalle branch to talk about doing the program jointly with them, there's a chance that they would cover part of the cost of the food.
Ooh,
I like that.
I like that too. Operationally, it's a rough estimate of around $10,000 to do 18 classes worth of food.
So what would one class be about?
One class could be anywhere, it's recipe dependent, but ballpark numbers, it would be between around $270 and $400, between that range.
It's not bad.
So they might be willing to pay, say, 200 or so for a
Yeah,
program.
that would help pay for a class, absolutely.
Okay, I will, talk with the person at LaSalle and get some information from them and then get it to you.
Please do. Right now, we are reaching out to our previous year partners who gave us money. Costco, Meyer, and Save-A-Lot, those three, I'm putting together a kind of like, look at all the things we did with your money. Now, please this is why we need more of it, sort of thing.
I'm just gonna buy your food again.
Yeah.
Behind your computer.
I would really like to play this video, but I just know that it's going to sound terrible coming out of the audio speaker right there in the middle of the table. You might just have to mute the TV real quick.
Mhm.
Go ahead and try. Oh, you're right, because it is coming out of the speaker.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great video. I like it a lot. It's on our YouTube
Why don't you
page.
just send it to the board?
Yeah.
Send a link.
So this year we're looking to do a mobile market, right? We are already doing these cooking classes. They've been a success, but we want to be able to provide a market that is cost effective in census sensitive communities across Portage Township. We would like to do it out in the community once a week when we're starting, but as it gets worked up to 3 days a week. So we're out there, Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. I know that Saturday is a big one for a lot of people in our area. I know the food bank talked about that being one of the big days that is needed for assistance, but that we're out 3 days a week for people can come out to the trailer, they can get on it, they can pay $5 for one of our freezer bags. It's a one-time cost. If they lose the bag, it's another $5. It's just more so that they also have skin in the game. And we are in the process right now. So I sat down with Cara Bowman over at Lippert, and I talked to them about our idea with this. And Cara let me know that once we have a vehicle, they would be willing to discuss having Forest River do the renovations for free,
Oh, wow.
which would be really nice. I sat down with Amy Hill from Transpo to see, what's the viability between a bus and a trailer. And she was really candid with me, but she was like, a bus, they're all compressed gas now. And because of that, there's only one fuel place where these buses can actually go, and they become very costly after a certain point. Whereas with a trailer, which is what's depicted up there, you just need a truck to kind of pull it around. You don't need a CDL license like you would a bus. And all you really need is a generator attached to that to make the inside refrigeration unit work. So
I think that's a much better idea anyway, because buses are just, they're not
yeah,
compact, right? I mean, like you driving this bus around the
Yeah.
city, it's just like,
especially some of the smaller streets. I mean, good luck.
Yeah,
I mean,
Okay.
and
Quick
so that
question.
was, yes,
Okay. So essentially they pay $5 for the bag
yes,
and then they can fill up free every time.
yep. And if they lose the bag again, it's just another $5.
Okay. And the only food on the bus will be frozen food.
No, so the market itself, we want an emphasis on fresh produce. I'm in the
Oh,
process
okay.
of right now talking to Cultivate, who became one of our community partners back in October. So I'm talking to Cultivate. I'm reaching out to Greenbridge growers. I want to try to make as many connections with local farmers as possible, because I mean those are the people that are really controlling the flow of food in our community. So getting an in with one of them is probably the next best move for us.
you could talk to Matthews, man. They have their own farms and everything right behind there.
Really?
So
It's up there,
basically,
but they are outside of Portage Township, though. They're in Warren Township, but still.
okay, so basically speaking, the bag they'll fill up with fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the idea also is that once we're doing it multiple days a week, let's say the weekend day, like every Saturday, we have our instructor out there cooking on site with the ingredients to say, oh, look at all this stuff that's here. You don't know how to use it. Well, here's an easy recipe to do.
Now I can tell you that works because I was part of setting up the urban garden market, and we would have someone from Purdue cook whatever foods were at the market.
Yeah.
And okay, my question is cost wise.
Yes.
Um,
How much will it cost to fill up the trailer in a rough guess per?
Rough guess, I would probably say anywhere between $500 to $600. I mean, if you really want to be a supplier, roughly around there.
Okay.
Are you saying 500 or 600 each time it goes out?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. There's a part of me that would like if we charge $5 each time someone uses a trailer.
Gotcha.
And I just think, I don't know. I mean, I kind of want people to have skin in the game.
Yeah.
$5 isn't that much. And I think we should do some thinking about, are we going to charge each time someone, even if it's $5 the first time and it's $3 each time you fill your bag up. I just would like us to think about that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always, this is the time to have that conversation. So I think that it's definitely worth looking into. I also know that, there are some other mobile markets that operate where they allow people to come and pick up for other households too, right? They just need to give their address and things like that. So it's something also to think about. Some people might not be able to access it for one way or another if they're disabled.
Right.
So it's just also, again, something to think about while we're kind of,
And that also, again, reminds me data collection, like getting the addresses for people who are identifying where need is in the city, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So something to keep in mind with it. But I tend to agree that we probably need to have some kind of buy-in.
yeah.
Maybe we waive that for anyone who's receiving assistance or something like that. I don't know. But there might be some ways to do that to just make sure, like, people getting it or people who need it.
I'm just writing it down. All right, let's see here. All right, and that's pretty much it for Nourish. That's all I had. 30 minutes. Sorry about that, guys.
Well, I had a lot of questions.
No, it's fine. I hope I answered them.
Right.
All right, thank you, Connor.
Thank you.
2 months in the making.
I also just want to say really quickly to everybody here, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. Seriously. It's been one of the most fulfilling years of my life.
It's a neat idea. It's a neat idea.
Yeah, it really is. It's very unique. And Connor, we're glad to have you doing it. So appreciate
Right.
you.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Now you're gonna give me something to do on Thursday, but I'm tell you what, I'm tell you what, if you bring that mobile unit out on a Saturday, don't call me. Yeah,
All right. We
I'm
still have
busy on
things-
Saturday
we
every
still have things
Saturday.
on here.
Yeah, let's get going through this. It's almost 7.
Future park project, so still understanding what that looks like. The opportunity to partner with Mathis and, get that going again, but there's also a 3.5 acre property off of Vordy, that we've been approached, about possibly interest in that, so, was thinking about looking at what, again, another maybe community needs assessment to see, is there some, we could, an indoor soccer facility. There is no indoor like sort of soccer or turf anymore anywhere in South Bend. So would something fit there? I don't know. Those are all questions we're really just looking into. I don't have any asks for the board, but I just wanted to put it on your radar that it's something in the background that's being discussed and looked at. I'm going to add one here, which is community needs assessment. I'm engaging with a local marketing company I think we talked about this a little bit, to start talking about, is there focus groups that they could do, some sort of surveying that they could go out and say, what is their perception of the work that Portage Township is doing? What do they feel like the city is doing? Where are the gaps that Portage Township gives? Where do people want to be served most right now? Based on the next topic, that might become very important. And the next topic is the legislative impact. Cheryl asked for this to be added here. So there's 3 main, I guess, updates I would give you. One is the 3 main pieces of legislation that affect us the most, I would say. One is the elimination of township government, and that is dead. Okay, so that bill is dead, and not going anywhere this session. They want to talk about it this summer. I met with the representative, actually on the floor. Ryan Dvorak helped me pull her off the floor during session to talk to her. And she seems like a nice lady, Southern Indiana. And her position is just, there's a lot of deadbeat townships where she's from that aren't doing anything. So why do they exist? And so the ITA's position is like, well, don't punish all of us. Like, let's talk about going after the bad actors. And so it sounds like everybody agrees that's the case. Let's take a step back and start talking about how that would work, but work together. So pretty cool on that. But the big devastating ones would be the one you're hearing a lot about is property tax cuts.
Mm-hmm.
If that were to pass, if Braun's version were to pass, it would be about $600,000 out of our budget. So it would be a devastating hit to our budget. And I would remind you that it's just the property tax levy, which almost fully funds our assistance budget.
Mm-hmm.
Lit money is our other, sort of decent funding that we get. That is required to go into the admin fund. So it would be specifically township assistance that would get annihilated. Yeah, completely annihilated. So if that were to have passed, and that has now been amended and scaled back significantly, and now what came out of the House or the Senate was just something that's just going to cap growth, which is good. I mean, that does need to happen. But Braun has already signaled he's not happy with it, and he's gonna have, he's gonna ask the House to put more teeth in it. So I think we still have to brace for some sort of cut. The other thing we need to be aware of is there's a road funding bill that is still going through the House. The original version of that bill would have said, okay, you need to, each township, whatever your cash reserves are at the end of the year, you need to take a significant portion of that and do road funding, road projects with it. So we would be required to repair roads within the township, regardless of who owned them. And their intention is that you would partner with the city or partner with the county to sort of make that money go far. And they don't really know how that would look like, but it would require us to take our cash reserves out of the, and that's, targeting some of these townships that have a lot of money in cash reserves. The last version I saw of that was, okay, instead of that, now you have to take 30% of your budget and apply that to road funding. Now, the legislator who proposed that, he kind of was like, he came to the fireside chat and he was like, well, hey, look, 30% is just a starting number, but we've got to get these roads fixed, and what do we do? And so I don't know where that's going to land, and I hope to get an update on Friday. That's when we do our legislative sort of roundtable and conversations. But if either one of those were to pass in their original forms, hard conversations on what Portage Township's priorities are moving forward. It would affect the fire territory, it would affect us, it would affect everything. So I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, because this is just the reality of the situation. But if that property tax one were to pass and or that road funding were to pass, even by themselves, would be devastating hits to the Portage Township budgets.
Mm-hmm.
No, I guess if they can do that, they don't need to put a bill through to just end the township.
Pretty much, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll have my pulse on it and I'll keep you guys updated, but that's just kind of where things sit right now. I'm a little bit more hopeful on the property tax one. The road one, it seemed kind of flimsy, I'll be honest. It didn't sound like the governor was pushing that so much. It sounds like it's just this, but it did take up a lot of time last week during the lobbying week when we were down there. And those conversations were happening. So the ITA was spending significant time on that in discussion with the lawmakers, but the property tax one is the one that's really getting all the attention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
Does that answer you? Go ahead, Cheryl.
So I guess my major question at this point is, the legislators in our area, like Linda Rogers, et cetera, where are they standing on this?
It's hard to get a straight answer out of them. I mean, I grabbed Jake and I grabbed Linda and kind of just was chatting them up about, what we had going on and all that. It's hard to say where they stand, to be honest with you. I did not get a good read of that.
Okay. Oh, I swear, folks.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, you and I know that they'd have to come up with where we're going to get the money for assistance, because that is written in the law, but it could not very be much assistance.
Well, they have no problem passing laws that are not followable. So that is the problem. And I'm actually worried about all of this national chaos with Medicaid and Medicare impacting higher claim rates here, right? Because the more people are told they can't get any response, Social Security,
Come here.
and these are all things that could drive more people here, because some nut job 12-year-old
Yeah.
their people. So
yeah. So I mean, the problem is every homeowner is for it. And I saw a lady who lived in
No, we're not.
Plenty of people aren't. Like, they need to cap
yeah,
the.
but what I guess
the
I'm saying
assessments.
is, I saw a lady from Harder Heights on TV, and she was an older woman talking about how it would help her. She was middle class. She talked about how, because of all the Airbnbs that were happening over by Notre Dame, her property taxes going up. But I honestly think nothing has been done to educate the public about what are we giving up if this fully goes through. Like, I saw what the hit the library took. There's no way the library can maintain its branches with the hours they have if it took a hit like that. And part of the problem is people aren't realizing what will have to be eliminated or reduced. And so that's the only thing I'm saying is I don't think people have the remotest idea what's going on. All they hear is my property tax is going to go down, and I want that. But we don't get into say, well, are you willing to have your branch out in German Township close or things like that? I mean, that's one of the major problems.
Yeah,
I think we just gotta wait and see what happens. And there's not really any action we can take on it, so.
that's how it feels. I'll keep you guys updated though. I mean, that's kind of where it sits right now.
All right. Well, I think that takes us to the end of the agenda, unless there's anything else.
Well, I'm bringing up my other thing at a different meeting.
Yeah, because it's almost 2 hours.
Yeah, because I'm hungry.
I'll move to adjourn.
I second.
All right, meeting adjourned.
What was
Okay.
your thing?
Cheryl
My
said
thing is,
yes.
Thank you, Cheryl. We'll see you later.
My thing is,
Bye.
we're gonna talk about Portage Township putting out our own statement on.
Okay, let's see. This isn't the one I want. Yes. Let's see. Pampa County. Mm-mm. Mm. What do I do? Mm. Oh, I'm tired. Let's see. Tired. Great. Tired.